Evans Kafage. I am a psychologist, or what is commonly known as a therapist, and I'm the clinical manager here at Catholic Center. And I'm really looking forward to today's discussion. Asanteni sana.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Evans, for that brief introduction. Nasikianga wanaume, they don't give lengthy introduction. Short and brief. Brenda, over to you.
Evening, everyone. My name is Brenda. You can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, my name is Brenda, and I work at Catholic. I'm part of the marketing team, and I'm happy to be here to talk about this what you'd call a pandemic, especially like we saw yesterday, that 5 people were reported dead. So it is a pandemic, and it's not the first time that's happened. So it's a conversation that I'm happy that we need to address, and I'm happy to be here. And yes, let's all learn from the experts.
Okay. Okay. So thank you so much, Brenda, for that. And I believe, let's just, if you're joining in, please, you can unmute or just text in the comment section what your expectation for tonight is. So with further ado, I can see our facilitator for tonight is here. Good morning, Irene. Acha tuone katashika mtu leo.
Good morning, Lulu.
Imagine, wow.
Yes.
It is morning on your end.
Yes. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Wow, amazing. So tonight we'll be having Irene Joroge, the founder of Catholic International. So Irene, karibu sana. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Lulu. I'm just trying to project.
Okay.
You can see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Fantastic. Very good, very good. Very happy to be here this evening. It's nice to see everyone, those that I can see, to our guests who are joining us for this conversation. Karibuni sana. We are live. Should we say that, Lulu, from Catholic Center in Thika? Evans
Yes.
and I, and I'm very excited to talk about this subject. This is one of my, areas of study that you call your forte. So anything substance use, I feel very confident when I'm talking about it. The same way I talk about parenting. So very good. So today we're talking about alcohol use, and before we go too far, I would just want to lay it out here. If you are joining up for the first time, I just want to give me 1 second. My screen is moving. Yeah. All right, great. So who is Irene? I am all of those things, and I'm proud of all of them. Most importantly, I am a mom, and I'm a wife, and I thrive in family environment. More so, I really value authenticity. And in practice, I am a mental health clinician and behavioral therapist, and I also coach well-being. And yes, I did, co-found Catholic Center. Was laying on the organization Catholic International that was founded back in 2015. My vision, and what I hope that all of us can get inspired tonight, is to really build a community where people are aware and actively engaged in creating safe spaces that promote connection, because with connection, each one of us can maximize our full potential. So that's just kidogo about me. We will not wait too long because I have quite a bit in this webinar. Lulu, you are recording it?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
it's already
that's fine.
running.
Yes, so people who are joining a bit later, they'll have to catch up with us on the recording or on YouTube Live. So what we will discuss or cover tonight, we are going to look at the different categories of alcohol use, because it is not just clustered at one. We are going to look at some low-risk drinking guidelines that have been recommended by evidence, alcohol use disorder, and actually the diagnostic criteria. Because we keep saying someone is an alcoholic, or I have alcoholism, or they have alcoholism. What does that mean? Alcohol use disorder, alcohol use, what is that? We are going also to look at some facts, because there is a lot of misconceptions about alcohol use disorder, some harm reduction advice that people can take home, particularly if you're supporting someone or if you're the person struggling. This does not discriminate. We're going to look at alcohol withdrawal, which is an element of alcohol use that a lot of people are not aware of, the challenges that can come because of alcohol withdrawal, some evidence-based approach for treatment that we use, particularly here at CAFRIC, so that people can understand why people need to go to treatment, because it's not just because they need to be locked up. No, there is a good reason, and also tips to support someone in recovery. So we are going to unpack quite a bit, and I will go fast because it's not a lot of technical information. It's information that people can relate very, very well. All right, so alcohol use categories, there are a few of them. For us who in the practice of substance use, there is something that we call abstinence. And abstinence is really when one is not consuming alcohol at all. So one does not drink. Then from that, we go to low risk drinking. And what does that mean? This is when one drinks within the low risk drinking guidelines, which we will see what those are, because they are guidelines that should that actually are based on evidence to guide people through that. And then there is now at-risk drinking. Who is at risk? It is when someone drinks in excess of those guidelines, but experiences minimal adverse effects. And these adverse effects sometimes could be just social, it could be interpersonal, even functional work and all of that. And now the other one is alcohol use disorder. This one is when one meets the set standard criteria to diagnose alcohol use disorder, and it's the same DSM-5 that also diagnoses things like depression, things, all of those other mental health conditions that we see. The same criteria, the same diagnostic tool has a criteria for each mental health related condition, including alcohol use. Okay. So that is the criteria that we will unpack kidogo today, so that when people are interacting with people in their spaces or even trying to support themselves, you have an understanding of what that means. So the criteria also has a range. When one meets 2 to 3 points of that criteria, because it has a scoring system, 2 to 3 points, you are considered to have mild alcohol use disorder. AUD is alcohol use disorder. 4 to 5 points is moderate, and 6 plus, then that is someone is diagnosed with severe alcohol use disorder. And I don't want to share the entire criteria, it is huge, but I will share snippets of it that I have summarized so that you can see the domains that we look at when we are going through the screening or the assessment. So first off, what is a standard drink, right? Because especially for young people who are experimenting, you know, you go to the double shots and all of those, and you say, you know, I only had 2. Well, it depends on what you had. So this is what a standard drink. When we say how many drinks do you drink per week or per day, someone mute, fusion, please. Yes, this is what we are talking about.
It is not sharpened.
So
this is not sharpened. Not sharpened.
Can you start? Yes, thank you. Please mute everyone as they come in. So for those who drink beer, we are looking at this. This is the standard drink for beer. This glass here that is 12 ounces or 341 mils. And it's that when you're consuming beer that is 5% alcohol, okay? Then cider, those who are on the sweet tooth, this is very common with young women, women in general. You see the coolers, the ciders, you're looking at this bottle. And this bottle also, its content is 5%, but it's also a 12-ounce bottle. So if you are to pour that in a glass, that is how it would, the size of it that you're looking. Then for the wine lovers, obviously, the wine glass is usually very big, but a standard drink, that does mean that you fill it up. This is a serving, a standard drink for wine. If you're having more on that glass over this, you're actually either drinking 2 servings, 2 standard drinks in one shot. So wine should be served in this as a standard drink, and you see wine has more alcohol content. It is very important for people to know, because we tend, I guess, because the Italians introduced wine as an accompaniment for a nice meal or almost like a dessert, many of us associate wine as if to be less harmful than all the others. But you can see it has more alcohol content on a standard drink than actually beer and ciders, okay? So 12%. And then distilled alcohol, anything like rye, gin, whiskey, rum, vodka, all of those things, you see the percentage of alcohol increases, and so in the third drink, it is reduced significantly. So it is important so that we are not, even when we choose to drink, we're not just using one glass for everything. Because there's a reason, there's a wine glass, there's a beer glass, and there's a whiskey glass. For those who serve in restaurants or other places, establishments where people go to have fun, you may see they serve with different glasses for a reason. Because there's a standard drink for each drink, depending on its alcohol content. So for those hard liquors and all of those spirits, the alcohol content, you can see if a beer is 5%, imagine you drinking just one. How many times more are you drinking over the person that is drinking beer? Not that beer is good, but alcohol content is key so that people can start to understand the risk that they put themselves in. Or even when you have someone who's been drinking and they drink hard liquor, when you see them consume a whole mzinga, then you know the severity of alcohol use with that person because of the alcohol content is the risk is very, very high. Okay? So, limits. I said I'll share the low risk drinking guidelines, and these are published, they're evidence-based. For men, the guidelines suggest maximum of 3 drinks per day or a total of 15 per week. If you're drinking within that range, you are considered a low-risk drinker. That is not permission for anyone to start. That is no permission to say that you're not going to experience some health problems. It is just low risk considered to what alcohol use disorder is. For women, it is a bit lower, notice, because for women it's 2 per day, regardless whichever one you choose, whether it's beer, it's a cooler, whether it is a wine or it's just any of the hard liquor, 2 standard drinks per day or 10 maximum per week. Exceeding these limits for any gender increases risk of alcohol-related harm. And we look at that. It is important that I mention the reason there is a discrepancy between which men and women consume. It is because in our bodies, there is an enzyme we produce called glutathione. For women, we produce less glutathione, and that is the one that helps our bodies metabolize alcohol. So for men, they produce a bit more, and so they're able to metabolize the alcohol a bit faster, also because men tend to be more masculine. So there are all those other factors that help them metabolize the alcohol faster. For us women, particularly, we do not produce as much glutathione, and so our clearing of alcohol is lower. And that is one of the reasons why we see the discrepancies, even with size. When we exclude size and all of that and age, women still, the guidelines have lower limits for women than men. Okay? All right. Oh. All right. So at risk drinking. Remember we said there was abstinence, that person doesn't drink. Then we came to the guidelines that state what low risk is. We've looked at that. Now, who do we consider to be at risk? At risk versus someone who has an alcohol use disorder. This is a table that I wanted to depict so that people can have a clear idea on how to compare the two. For at-risk drinkers, when it comes to withdrawal symptoms, and we'll talk about withdrawal in a little bit, they usually don't experience any withdrawal, symptoms. But for alcohol use disorder, withdrawals are often. Standard drinks, for at-risk drinkers, they are drinking within the guidelines, or just a bit higher, 14 plus per week. For alcohol use disorder, someone is drinking 40 to 60 plus standard drinks per week. And remember, the maximum is actually 13, and that is for male. For women, it's 10. Okay? Drinking pattern, critical. At risk, you are seeing it's variable. And for at-risk drinkers, who we may call sometimes the people who go on a bender, they may go for a long time without drinking, but now the challenge is when they drink, they really overwhelm their system, okay? So this depends. Sometimes they are in a happy situation, they tend to do a bit more. Sometimes they don't want it, sometimes they just want one and they go. That is at least drinking. Use disorder, they tend to drink a set amount each day. This is someone, every time they drink one less, they actually start to experience some discomfort. Okay? In terms of social consequences for at least drinkers, there's little to none. And then for alcohol use disorder, very severe, same as physical consequences. And social consequences include like being late for work, not showing up for work, you know, misusing money, lying, hiding, all of that. Physical consequences is when we start to see injuries on a body, we start to see falls, we start to see fights and all of those things. So at least drinking, usually we see none or mild, and for alcohol use disorder, these are often severe. Socially stable, yes, for at least drinkers, they're usually socially stable. We see them, they go to the bar, they go hang out, they drink, they come home, they repeat, they go to work. But obviously that can progress to alcohol use disorder. And then neglect of major responsibilities, including taking care of children. We see at least drinkers, usually we don't see that as much, but with alcohol use disorder, when we are diagnosing someone, all of that is affected. So I hope that gives someone an understanding, because in most cases you go to maybe emergency department with maybe you have pancreatitis or you have some certain pain or something, maybe you are vomiting blood. And you know, the doctor may write there you are an at-risk drinker, you have alcohol use disorder. So that is what that means. Okay. So alcohol use disorder now, the condition that we diagnose, the condition that we must treat, particularly in centers like ours here at Catholic, where we treat substance use, these are the people that we may suggest a longer term treatment period and also in most cases admission. So how does it look like? People with alcohol use disorders often have the following 4 traits, okay? Important to note. 1, they cannot control their drinking on their own. 2, they continue to drink despite knowing it is harmful. So for many people on the streets, you hear people say, you're wasting your life, you're going to kill your liver, you're going to do this. They already know alcohol is a harm to them. But remember, they cannot control. They also spend a lot of time drinking, and they have very powerful urges or cravings to drink the alcohol. And so when we assess and we do that assessment and find out these things, that is how we arrive at who should be admitted, who should go to treatment, who should go to what most people know as rehab to be able to get treatment. Alcohol use disorders, however, have nothing to do with character, willpower, or morals. Many good and strong people have an alcohol or drug problem. Yes, we see them, we see CEOs, we see mothers, we see fathers, we see teachers, all kinds of people. Law enforcement, it does not discriminate. So it's not a moral issue. It is more, there is obviously some genetic component, but there are other social issues that we are going to see. People with alcohol use disorders find that once they start drinking, it is no longer about choice. So the first time that people actually take on or take alcohol, I just wanted to have a good time, or I was at a party and people are drinking, I was offered, or there's many other reasons why one would start. However, by the time you are diagnosed with an alcohol use disorder, drinking is no longer a choice that you have. Alcohol is dangerous to stop. Okay, so what happens when people reach to a point where they have alcohol use disorder, they have to drink to survive. Otherwise, if they don't get treatment, alcohol withdrawal is terrible and actually it can be fatal. So what is the criteria that we use to diagnose alcohol use disorder? It is called the DSM-5, and DSM-5 has progressed from DSM-3 to going on. So DSM-5 is the current one. And for alcohol use disorder, I categorized it into 4 major domains that I want you to watch. The first one is impaired control. And how does impaired control, meaning this person really, they may want to stop, but they don't have control. That takes alcohol being taken in larger amounts and for a longer period than one intends. I go to the bar, I have 1,000 shillings, I am only going to have one where I wait for traffic to subside, and I end up being there until 3 a.m. in the morning. That is the kind of drinking I'm talking about. There's a persistent desire or unsuccessful efforts to cut down or control alcohol use. Regardless of how early or how late I get home, I have this persistent desire. I just want to stop. I know it is harmful. It is going to ruin most of the plans that I have, but I cannot stop. So that desire is there. Number two, a great deal of time is spent in activities necessary to obtain alcohol, use it, or to control alcohol use. So you find people, if they are all going to great length, and they're going to great length in terms of where am I going to get the next drink? How am I going to get it? Whether it is stealing, whether it is not purchasing food so they can save money for alcohol, or sometimes they try to control on their own, where they say, I'm going to drink all the money that I have by the 5th of February because I don't want to drink for the month of February. So without knowing, with an alcohol use disorder, yes, that seems like a good strategy until you start experiencing withdrawals, and those are so uncomfortable. So people now go on to desperation, they start stealing and all of that. Or the other one for impaired control is where there are cravings or a strong desire to use alcohol. So they may not want to use. Sometimes people go to work and they are busy with their work and they love their job, but the cravings are just too much that one is not able to hold or withstand. So they end up drinking because of the cravings that they're experiencing. So that is impaired control. Those are the factors that we see when we consider one to have impaired control. Two, or domain two, is the social impairment domain. Here, what we are seeing, it is more on the social context in where people interact. So there is recurrent alcohol use, which results in failure to fulfill important role obligations, whether that is work, school, or even home. People miss work or skip work. People are not productive at work. Sometimes, even students, they are missing classes, obviously hiding mostly from parents, or in most cases, they are evasive of home responsibilities. They cannot account for where the money is. They are falling behind on bills, on rent, or all of those things. Or there is continued use despite persistent or recurrent social or interpersonal problems caused or made worse by the effects of alcohol. In this case, this is someone sometimes who has a very chaotic environment or interpersonal relationships with family. It could be the whole family is trying to say, you need to stop drinking, and everyone is on their case, but they have tried to try stop, and they are not able to. So what we see, everyone is against it, but they are trying and they can't. So they end up just pushing people away. So in families, we see this happening where one just becomes so belligerent that even in family gatherings, people know if Irene is going to come, we just expect havoc. Even when she comes not drunk, by the end of that day, things are going to be so bad. And the last one on social impairment is important social or occupational recreational activities are given up or reduced because of alcohol use. Yes, one, because we have to account for the money that we have, to use or spend on alcohol. And the other thing, because when one has an alcohol use disorder, you can only, but the time between the last drink and you going into withdrawal is very short. So if you are going to wedding, which was gonna stay, you are going to stay there for 5 or 6 hours. That's a very long time. So somebody is going to have to leave. It's not even that. Between the last drink for someone who has severe alcohol use disorder to the next drink, depending on what they have been drinking, could be as short as 1 hour or 2 hours. So we see people who appear and then disappear. We are all wondering, what happens? Where did they go? I just thought that, this was very important. It's a child's graduation. Sometimes it's a wedding. Sometimes it's any other gathering that is important to the rest of the family. And this person just happens to show up, show their face, and they're gone the next minute. When you see them next, in the same event, they are so drunk, you wonder, how can one be drunk like this within only 1 hour of them disappearing? Yes, because it takes very little when you have alcohol use disorder for that spike to go all the way up. Okay, so this is social impairment. Domain 3 is what we call risky use. And what are we assessing? We are assessing whether there is recurrent alcohol use in situations where one is putting themselves in a physically hazardous situation, either driving a motor vehicle, operating any machinery when they're intoxicated, sometimes fighting when they're intoxicated, or sometimes falls. They drink to the point that they don't have stable gait, they end up falling, hitting their, breaking their bones, hitting their head. That is the risky situation. Or alcohol use is continued despite knowledge of having these recurrent physical, psychological problems that are caused or made worse by alcohol. So if you were to engage that person, and we do, for many of us in practice, when people come to treatment, even though some people are forced from families, or some people they were brought against their wish, maybe pressure from work, or they were mandated by court, any of that, what we find, because we are trauma informed, we understand that it's not just the alcohol, there are other underlying factors often that one cannot control. So based on the approach that we use, people are able to tell us, by the way, I have been trying to stop for the last year. I have tried this, but my family doesn't even know that, and I've just given up. So we see a lot of desperation and helplessness that is coming with people who have an alcohol use disorder. And the last one is physiological dependence. And this is where we start to see withdrawal. When one is physiologically dependent on a substance, not just alcohol, two things are happening. One is tolerance. And what is tolerance? Tolerance is, and I'll give an example. You started drinking January 2023. And that was a wedding, you had fun, you had 3 beers, you felt on top of the world, confident, dance all night, great. The next Saturday you are going out, you figured, I'm gonna drink again so that I can enjoy like that. Maybe that following week you drink 2, you feel the same. Week 3, week 4. By the time you're on month 2, those 2 beers, when you drink them, you are flat, like they don't do anything. That is an indicator you have already now developed or built tolerance. So what happens is, if you want the effect you felt on day 1 of drinking, you either have to double the amount, or if you continue to drink the same amount, you expect to feel nothing more. That is tolerance. Withdrawal is when you've been drinking all January 2023, February, March, here it's April, people are fasting, it is for Christians, it's Easter time, or, it's anything else that's happening that you think, I am not going to drink for this period. And you realize, oh, I've been drinking every day or every weekend of my life, to realize that my body was keeping tabs. So you try to stop on your own because you have an important event or a task or a project you're working on, and boom, you start to feel symptoms. And we'll talk about alcohol withdrawal and what that is. So alcohol withdrawal is where, when you withdraw alcohol after taking it for some time, your body responds negatively to that withdrawal. And we look at those symptoms and why some of them can be very, very dangerous, okay? So physiological dependence has to have tolerance and withdrawal. And we assess that. And this is the highest marker for us to say, this person cannot be treated from an outpatient context, they need admission. Or this person, they may have tolerance, but they don't experience withdrawal symptoms. They have all the other social supports are there, impaired control, they haven't really lost that. They don't see any risky use. This person can be treated from an outpatient perspective. So we don't just make decisions, or I will speak for Catholic because definitely I can't vouch for what other facilities do, but that is what guides how what the recommendations that we give for someone in which way they should pursue treatment. Okay, now some facts about alcohol use disorder, because there are a lot of misconceptions, including if people can stop if they want. Alcohol, you don't just start, you don't just become an alcoholic. You must have been, doing something to ruin or then let's talk about some facts, okay? 1, do you know, you and I, even if we don't drink, including our brothers and sisters who drink themselves to oblivion, we have this, what we call the addicted brain. Yes, because it's not just the alcohol that people become addicted to. It is not just drugs. All of us have this reward center in our brain that responds to any activity that we do that is essential for survival. Okay? So, for example, eating, right? Who would have thought? Eating is related to the same part of the brain as alcohol. So when we eat a meal, especially because you are hungry, your body registered. It releases that hormone dopamine that tells the rest of your body and all the other ghrelin and those hormones that are released when you're hungry, relax, we have been sorted. The same thing happens when we actually drink, okay? The only challenge is alcohol or any other psychoactive substance, when they go to that part of the brain, if eating or maybe even sex or even hugging someone or spending time with our child, something that gives us a lot of dopamine and all of those pleasure feelings, if those give us dopamine that is 2 liters, let me just do a very general example. If all of those activities that we do for survival give us 2 liters of dopamine, alcohol and drugs will give us 100 liters, okay, for the same thing. So do you see now, because of the amount of dopamine that is produced when we take psychoactive substances, including alcohol, the feel good is so powerful and it's so big that we are motivated to repeat that over and over. When we eat, yes, we feel good, especially when we eat something yummy, like a piece, nice buttery cake, okay? We want to, when we see another cake, we start to, our salivary glands starts to release saliva. We want to eat more of it. That is okay. And the majority of us can actually control ourselves. Or even if we eat, maybe there is no immediate negative consequences to our health for just that. But now with alcohol, it's not just another piece of cake that is going to give us the memory that we felt last time. With each drink that you drink, the feeling of euphoria or pleasure, it is so magnified that you cannot forget that feeling. And that is why drinking or using drugs, because of the powerful dopamine that they release, they take over. If one used to enjoy spending time with their spouse, their partner, the children, or even doing hobbies, hiking, football, or anything, you find by the time they start to drink and they get into that physiological dependence, it's like they forget about everything else that was important in their life. Because those things cannot compete in the brain with the alcohol. And this is critical, especially for young people. Because when we keep talking about the gateway happens here. That when the brain catches up with that, you may want to stop because in your mind you're thinking, this is not good, this is not what I was taught, I want to finish school. But the brain is so physiologically dependent on that fix that it's very, very hard to stop. So this is what reinforces people's substance use, even when they rationally know it is harmful to them. Okay, so a lot of us will, give ultimatums, we will give consequences, we will throw privileges, but an addicted brain that is exposed to alcohol will find a way, unless the only thing that can overcome that is actually what we call a safe space or connection. Connection is the one that comes close to that pleasure, that safety that they feel with the alcohol or the drug. Then the other thing I wanted to talk about is on concurrent disorders, because alcohol use disorder does not happen in isolation. Really, it just occurs on its own. People with substance use disorders often suffer from other mental health issues. Yes, sometimes they are the cause, or they contributed to the initial use, or they facilitate the ongoing misuse of alcohol or drugs. There are common concurrent disorders that we know. One is trauma. This time, if you have attended our webinars before, we are very heavy as a trauma-informed facility, and we do talk about the impact of complex trauma or even on shock trauma, which we call PTSD. So PTSD is shock trauma, those one-time events where you witness maybe something tragic happen and shocked you, and you have nightmares and memories of that. CPTSD is what we call complex trauma. This is where you're exposed in an environment that you don't feel emotionally safe, but there is nothing that is life-threatening. So you are just consistently exposed in an unsafe environment, and mostly CPTSD happens from early childhood. Many of us grew up in environments where we were not, visibly abused, whether it was physical or even sexual, but there was a lot of emotional abuse or neglect. That causes PTSD. There is also anxiety. Anxiety is a huge contributor to drinking, because if one struggles with anxiety and another person doesn't, and these two people decide, person A and B, person A has anxiety, B does not have, and they decide, let's go out for a party. They go to the party. The person with anxiety, both of them get handed on a glass of wine. Do you know the person who has ongoing anxiety may have shown up there with an anxiety of, let's say, 6 out of 10, because their baseline anxiety is high. Then the person who does not have general anxiety showed up to the same party with an anxiety score of, let's say, 2 out of 10. Now picture this. This one score is 6 out of 10. This one, it is 2 or 3 out of 10. They both get alcohol now, the same contact, the same glass of wine. This is what alcohol does to anxiety. The one who came from with a 6 out of 10, when they take the first sip, anxiety drops, whoop, to 4. It's almost matching this one. The one who came with maybe 2, because no one has zero anxiety, maybe 2 out of 10. The first glass of wine doesn't do anything. Then they get another glass. The one who had 6, now they are 4, they go to zero anxiety. Now they're on top of the table, they're dancing. They're able to call their friends, they're able to now introduce themselves to girls or boys in the club. But it will take the person who came in with very low anxiety some time for the anxiety to match to the effect or impact that it has had to the one who had anxiety. And that is why these concurrent disorders, whether it's anxiety or depression, when people struggle and they do not get adequate help for them, alcohol can become such a coping mechanism because it works like that. And people know, and there's nothing you can tell me, guess what? Because you have never experienced the anxiety that I feel on a daily basis. So when you have to come and criticize the only tool I know that works for me, people can become very, very defensive and sometimes even very hostile. So a lot of empathy that is required before we start addressing these things, because people are sometimes trying to help themselves. Then these issues must be addressed through counseling in addition to working on issues of substance use. I say there's no such thing as treating alcoholism. You treat the person so that the person can have control of the behavior which is taking alcohol, okay? So the person you're treating, the thing you're treating is the person with whatever they're struggling with, the context in which they drink, so that on their own, with the tools that they will get in treatment, in therapy, they can use the tools to overcome or to have control of the behavior or to be able to make better choices for themselves. What about avoiding alcohol-related harms? This is very, very crucial, especially to the younger generation, because alcohol is such a social drug now. It is so acceptable in society. People are drinking at homes. Young people, you see, if you're driving on Thika Superhighway, cars parked on the side of the road, it's become such a, it's so acceptable that a lot of the time we are not thinking about the harms that we are putting ourselves into. So there are many ways we can, and I would want to remind you, if you're just joining, this is a standard drink. And this, I hope someone takes a screenshot or something, because it is so important. You cannot drink a glass of the size of this beer of hard liquor and call it a sizable standard drink. No, you are going to drown your liver very, very, very fast. So low-risk drinking guidelines, we did talk about them. And these are guidelines that suggest that women should not exceed 10 per week, or no more than 2 days in most days, okay? Men should not exceed 15 in a week or more than 3 in a sitting. Both men and women should plan non-drinking days every week to avoid developing a habit. You see what I talked about, tolerance and now withdrawal? That is the habit. That is what creates a psychological dependency. When you drink on a daily basis, the same amount, you are going to form that habit so fast. And my friend, you are going to say, I'm educated, I have a family, I have all of this, I cannot develop alcoholism. You will get there before you know it. On special occasions, it is expected that people may drink more on those occasions, but to minimize risk, this is what guidelines recommend. And these are not IREM guidelines. These are set guidelines. And this is what they recommend. I'm just going to clear my screen a bit. Women should not exceed 3 drinks on any single occasion. You can see here women have been added a bit more. 1 more. And the reason we say it, because women do not produce a lot of that hormone that actually helps people to metabolize alcohol, which is called glutathione. Men should not exceed 4 drinks on any single occasion. All right? So it is important to know there are guidelines that are published that are there to guide how we consume alcohol so that we can continue to safeguard our health, even as we choose alcohol for those who choose it in places where we consider fun. So harm reduction advice. If one drinks in excess of those low-risk guidelines, you can provide the following advice. And this does not have, you don't have to be a practitioner, you don't have to be a medical person, but especially if you have trust with someone, this is some advice. That they consume no more than 1 drink per hour. Yes, it's called paced drinking. And this, it's not only going to save their liver and the rest of their organs, it is also going to save them money. So you are looking at 1 drink per hour. If you're going to be at the bar or whatever you're drinking from 6 p.m., which is most of the time what happens, or 5, if you're going to leave there at 10, how many hours are those? So is based on the number of hours is a very good tool. Or if you're saying, if right now you go to most bars, they bring 2 beers at one time. So you are looking at, I'm going to drink every 3 hours, 2 drinks. So for example, if they're serving me 2 at a time, and I go there at 5 they bring me 2, I will use them from 5 to 6, from 6 to 7, and 7 to 8. How am I doing that? The trick is always ask, you see they bring you the beer glass? Yes, refuse to take the beer glass and ask for the glass they serve whiskey with, because the pouring on its own of alcohol, because especially if it's beer, it is going to foam. It slows down the consumption process. And even if you are using hard liquor, if you are taking a Mzinga, I say don't put it in front of you. Tell whoever is serving you to put it far away, not at the back where you cannot see. Put it somewhere that you can see. You can see it, but it's not somewhere that you're just putting in. So, but if you're not able to do that, how do you control the fast drinking? It is by sipping rather than gulping. Have you ever seen, especially men in bars, but women too, we do that, that you are so thirsty for that Guinness, they open it up and you go, the whole bottle is down. And most people, they say the first one, Nikamaya, to clear the throat. That is terrible, because we saw what happens to dopamine. The minute that hits, you're going to gulp the next one and the next one. And the other technique is to switch to non-favorite drink. If I love Tusker, I am going to go to the bar and my mind, everything is telling me, just get a cold Tusker. I am going to get Tusker, but guess what? I don't like Pilsner. So next order, I am going to say, please, Sitaki Tusker, bring me what? Pilsner. Why? It is going to slow, because it's not something that I enjoy. And avoid unmeasured drinks. You know those that people do like this? Yes, you have a Mzinga and you have a glass and you're going like this. Why? We talked about this. That the standard drink, you see? So if it's unmeasured, there's no way you're going to know. And some people, they put it in tumblers, in very, very big glasses, they're just pouring it. It is important that you use the glass that is recommended for that particular time, so that you know how many you are consuming. Alternate alcoholic drinks with non-alcoholic ones. Yes, especially water. If you must choose to drink, please be afraid of water. Do not count how much this costs. Okay, and that is why I brought it. I'm not trying to advertise for anyone. But if you must drink, have water beside you. Have a bottle, 1 liter of water beside you. Why? Because it is going to slow down the drinking. And even when it's not slowing down, if you alternate a drink before you pour in a glass, you pour water there, it is also helping you metabolize the alcohol and less harmful it is to your body, because you can clear it faster. Eat and while drinking, yes. Eating before and when one is drinking really is very, very helpful because we talked about that addicted brain. Eating sends the same signals to the brain to relax because dopamine is there. So you don't have that anxiety that you came into the bar with. You're not as angry as you came. So the chances are you're going to consume less because your brain is already calmed down by food. So I say when you come in, especially for those who go and consume nyama choma, you know what? Don't order a whole kilo and sit down and consume it. You can say, give me a half or a quarter now. You eat that with ugali and greens, hopefully. You drink a couple drinks, maybe two, ask for the other half. Because that kills time. I'm sure the waiters or the servers are not complaining. You're still ordering from them, but you're saving your health. And set limits for yourself and stick to them. Whether it is money, only 2,000 per week, on alcohol or whatever, or I'm going to spend this much time in the bar, or I'm not going to the bar until it is Saturday, whichever limit works for you, that is harm reduction advice. Now, alcohol and trauma, because this is huge. We're not talking about the complex trauma, you know, those early childhood wounds. No, you're talking actually about physical trauma, things like head injuries that we see, broken bones, fights, broken noses, all of those, right? So the risk of trauma increases dramatically with each drink one consumes. And what we encourage is when you start to see those broken bones, unexplained injuries, that is the time to encourage one to go to treatment. Even if you think that they're just young and reckless, and this is critical, especially to parents of young adults, because a lot of them, you know, freedom for the first time after campus or after high school, and they're getting together with their friends and drinking is their thing. And a lot of them, you know, they have this unexplained, you see a bruised arm, you don't know what happened, a bruise somewhere else, or maybe, you know, a broken arm, a broken wrist, a broken finger, all of those things. Those are indicators that one is drinking out of control. Young, wicked, heavy binge drinkers are at high risk of trauma and they need treatment even if not daily drinkers and they don't have withdrawal symptoms. Who are these? I'm talking about kids as young as 13 years. Yes, we see them in treatment. They are in school. They do not skip school and they bring such good grades. So there is no reason for one to suspect my child is engaging in at risk or heavy drinking. So they will binge on a party on a Friday night or a Saturday, and then they'll come home with a bruise or maybe a concussion, God forbid, they have a broken wrist or they crashed the car, God forbid, because all of those things are happening. So what we'll see is you will realize someone is a heavy drinker, has an alcohol use disorder, or has at risk drinking because of the trauma that you see, because of the injury, whether it is a car that was wrecked, whether it was, you know, a broken nose, a broken hand, whatever it is. These people often don't have withdrawal yet. So you are seeing all these physical injuries before you start to see withdrawals. What I recommend is discuss safe drinking tips. Those tips that we've been sharing, discuss them with teens as young as 13 years. I say, a lot of parents say, isn't that encouraging them to drink? I say, let me ask you, you will have this information with them, which is supposed to send safety to them on how to keep themselves safe, or they go to drink and they actually use it, or you are feared to tell them because you don't want to seem like you're encouraging them, and they go to drink and you'll be called your daughter, your son crashed, or they fell and they had a concussion, or they were hit by a motor, all of those kind of things. Why? Because kids don't know, they just know alcohol is fun. That's what they know. They don't know the dangers. It is our job that when we learn these tips, please discuss them as early as 13. Why alcohol is dangerous and why alcohol should be taken by adults who have a sense of responsibility to understand how to keep themselves safe, to have control, and all of those things. Because again, with young adults and most of the adolescents, what is happening, they don't have money. And so they may have maybe 1,000 shillings in their pocket that they got as a, you know, allowance for that week. They go to the bar and they're saying, you know, kila mtu 500, 500, 500. And they order mzinga. And they have never known why mzinga is served with a whiskey glass. So they will get a drinker, but because you know what, I want to consume more than my friends, because that's how kids think. Their frontal cortex is not developed. They are going to take the beer glass and pour the drinker in there. But they don't know. But then the next time they can't even walk. So it is us, the adults, who are responsible to be able to teach them, and to be able to teach them the safe, within the safe drinking guidelines, including if you're a girl, you do not produce glutathione as boys. So please, these are your limits. If you're a man, these are your limits if you choose to do that. Avoiding trauma is drinking. Yes, things like do not drive a car or a boat. It is very unfortunate that we continue to hear of many losses being lost of young people from drinking. Do not get into a car or boat with people who have been drinking. Many kids, they actually just go to dance to have fun. But guess what? The person whose mom and dad gave them the car, they also perhaps give them some money for fuel. And they, maybe fuel the car 500 shillings or 1,000, and the other 1,000, let's have a party. So this is what happens. Your child gets picked up by a friend. You know your child doesn't drink. They actually don't drink. But then they go to that party. The friend who gave them the ride drinks, or another friend. And when that one in a group drinks, guess what? You can consider all of them drunk. Why? Because that one is going to lead the pack. And it's going to say, guys, let's use the expressway. We've not even tried it. So it is so, so dangerous. Remember, for young people, the thinking part, that one, the civilized brain is not fully developed until they're about 24 years old. Do not engage in arguments with intoxicated people. And this happens with youth all the time, okay? If they are intoxicated, they think the best time to prove how strong they are, it is to fight. So, and again, advice, as long as arguments happen, even if it's your group, because when one is intoxicated, they're not going to identify whether it was Irene or it was Judy or Brenda who started the fight. If you are in a group, you all get into the fight. So leave a party when strangers arrive, when it becomes chaotic. We need to tell them, leave. You don't have to come home with your friend who gave you a ride. Call me, have a code. I say for parents, it is important that you have a code with your child. What is a code? The code, when they're in danger, the one they say, Ma, 254. Know what they mean. Why? Because when they are with their friends, when they are in this chaotic environment, in most cases, they are told, if you're calling your parents, put them on speakerphone. You see? So you have to have that code, secret language, that you communicate with your child that can tell you whether they're in danger or not, including safety code. And what is a safety code? It is when, you know what, they were supposed to come home at 8, they had gone for a party, you don't want to embarrass them, and so you just call. It could be that, you're calling one of the parents or another friend. You just call and you know the safe code that you have with your child, and you say, hey, I read, I withdraw or something, or it could be a number, it could be letters, whatever it is, but it is important. For me, it is very, very important to have those safe codes that you can communicate with your child, because at that age, you can try, but their friends are more important than you. And that is just the developmental stage that they're in. And have a non-drinking friend, hopefully if it's possible, to accompany them home or take them home. And this is not just for young people. I'm saying harm reduction advice and how to avoid trauma, it is more useful when you're teaching a young person, because they already know the strategies to help themselves. But it applies to us as adults. You need to know this. The minute you get drunk, please, can we plan for these safety tips? Abstinence. We said abstinence is when one chooses, I am dry, alcohol is not my thing. If a person has a serious alcohol use disorder, such as they have serious accidents or recurrent visits to the emergency department, either because they're intoxicated or they have withdrawal, harm reduction advice, like what we just discussed, is likely to work for them. Why? This person have reached a point where they cannot undo the harm. Okay? So on their own, they have no control, they are already at risk, the social issues are already present. So this person needs to stop. And to stop is to remain abstinent. And this goal can be reached through one of these ways, either counseling, or they can also reach the goal medication. We have medication that we use also to help people stop drinking. And counselors or psychotherapists, as you call them, or psychologists or psychiatrists or psychiatric nurses can play a very significant role in helping one stop by emphasizing that actually therapy or medication work and they are safe. Because there's a lot of stigma around it and people say all kind of things, but the reason we say all those things is because majority of us do not have the right information. So I'm hoping this is falling in safe, responsible years where we can continue to share it out and let people know what's credible or what is not when it comes to the information that they get. Okay, so if there are serious consequences like those, abstinence is required. What about cravings? Because many people, even after treatment, they continue to struggle with craving on the early days of recovery. So what happens is what we want to do is to distract themselves, either keep busy, such as scheduling and keeping a routine. When they eat, when they cook, when they sleep, where they go, and so that they avoid those idle time. Another recommendation is to attend AA. These are self-help groups. And in Kenya, we do have, at Catholic, we do have lists of the AAs that happen in different places. Most AA is online now, including Smart AA. So it is Smart Recovery, sorry. It is important to attend this because they provide you with structure and social support and a sense of accountability, especially when you have a sponsor. Exercise is a great distractor, and exercise doesn't have to be going to pay gym memberships, just taking daily walks. Keeping regular sleeping and eating routines is so important because remember when one was drinking heavily, what happens? All your circadian rhythms that operate your sleep-wake cycles are off, your digestive tract is off, so your body is not in balance. So establishing regular routine, whether sleeping or eating, starts to set your body back in balance, and the less you struggle with cravings. Spend as much time as possible with supportive families, safe spaces, safe people. Those must not be people who use alcohol or drugs. Why? Because the more you see it, the more tempted you're going to be. So safe company is very important. We say the only thing that can compete with any alcohol or any drug is having safe, supportive, or love around you. That is the biggest motivator for any behavior change. Keep appointments with addiction counselors and doctors, especially after treatment. We say like here at Catholic, we offer free therapy for life, for as long as a client needs after we have treated, they have completed our inpatient treatment program. What happens is because people leave treatment feeling so confident, they often feel, you know what, no, I don't have to see. Appointments, I say they should be weekly for the first month. Why? Because the life that one knows, it was the life where they had no structure, they had no control and all of that. They spent 3 months in treatment, they have gotten into a routine, structure and all of that, and maybe perhaps the people, for example, they were here, the people who work here are trauma-informed, so they are safe people. One can express themselves. Oftentimes, when family does not become involved in treatment, they go home, but the issues they left at home are still there. So they meet them at the gate. And then we start to say, you know, they're looking irritable, restless. Yes, because the nervous system is picking up on that energy. So keeping appointments that as they are directed by the team that has treated someone allows for that continuity and for some to get that transition support. Again, coping with cravings, there is a lot here. I will not go through all of this, but I'll pick, you can take a screenshot if you can see it, but remember, it is important to take medications as prescribed, especially when one has a concurrent mental health related condition, whether depression, anxiety, sometimes even psychotic disorders. It is important that you continue with that medication. The fact that you stop drinking and you're sober now does not mean that your depression or your anxiety is healed. Please continue to take medication as prescribed and avoid these states, what we call HALT. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. That is the worst state for anyone who is struggling with cravings. Hunger, being angry unnecessarily, because that is not a bad emotion. Sometimes we put ourselves in places where we are just provoked and we become so angry because when you are angry, you lose control. When you are hungry, you lose control and you're going to eat anything. When you are lonely, you're going to lose control. You're going to start watching things that are going to trigger you or doing other crazy things. and you're tired the same. So all of those health states, they actually set you out of balance and make you lose control. Okay? Remember, even if there is such a strong urge to use, what I tell people is as please take some time, delay the urge to do it. If not just alcohol, even things like you're walking in a mall somewhere and you see a nice blouse that, oh my goodness, I have to go home with that. I said, if it was not in your plan ahead of time, the strategy of not a problem, you are lying to your brain. I am going to buy it, but let me go around in the mall and see what is there first. Then I'll come back. 70% of the time, if you had not planned for it, you will not buy it. You will save that money. But if you see it and go in, that is poor impulse control, and chances are you're going to give it. The same with drinking. I am going to drink. This is my Tusker. I have it in my hand. I put it here and I leave it unopened for the next 10 minutes. Let it sit. It's mine. I have bought it and I'm going to drink it. But I wait for 10 minutes. The power that has on your brain is on teaching it that you actually are in control here. Yes, you may like the Tusker, but you're going to drink it when you want. So try the delay tactic. And the other one is don't give up. Remember, usually with heavy alcohol drinkers who have a diagnosis with alcohol use disorder, they struggle with what we call subacute withdrawal, where you have been detox, you have been in treatment for 3 months. Sometimes you feel like as if your body is struggling with the same symptoms you used to struggle whenever you didn't have alcohol. So that is, again, it's what we call delayed withdrawal or subacute withdrawal, which can last for several weeks or months. And the anxiety, insomnia, fatigue, or cravings that you may be experiencing are all temporary. It is a phase. So don't give up. A lot of the time, people may sleep, and I tell people sleep is not a relapse. The fact that I slept and I had a drink today doesn't mean that that's it. Now I am all the way, all the money, all the work that everyone did was for nothing. No, don't give up. Neither should the family that is supporting that person. Remember, with every attempt to stop, with every sleep they make, if the desire and the support is there, they will make another effort to do better. But when we give up too soon, we give up on a brain that is still needing a lot of support. So there are also concerns about coping with anxiety and low mood. This is common because, remember, we said alcohol is a quick drug for anxiety. Alcohol is a perfect mood lifter. So what happens when you stop? Chances are your anxiety goes up the roof, your mood goes all the way down. So a lot of people will say, I feel too anxious and depressed when I'm not drinking. Well, this is what's happening, and this is what we tell people. Mood disorders and alcohol use disorders often go together because they feed each other. Low mood tells the brain, I need some alcohol. Alcohol, the brain tells the brain, no, my mood is perfect. You see, so if you have problems with your mood as well as with drinking, it is important that you seek treatment for both issues. Okay, and I say this so strongly as a person in practice and treating substance use disorders, that if one does not, or a provider does not have capacity to treat both, then that is not a provider who should be treating someone with substance use, because one is not going to cure the other one automatically. So people need to have the requisite skills, experience, and qualifications to be able to manage both. Treating one often helps with the other. When it comes to alcohol use, a lot of the time people will come to treatment not because of the alcohol, but because they've been feeling depressed or the anxiety is up the roof. Why? Maybe they have been trying to stop or taper down on their own. So what we do in most cases, we do both assessments and we'll determine which one is the urgent issue. And so if one is coming in maybe with very, very low mood, a lot of anxiety, we may start medications to help the body or the brain cope with that, or to elevate the mood, or to lower the anxiety. And we're now assessing for alcohol use. And this is where I say for adequate and proper treatment, every door should be the right door. If people come in and say, I have not been able to sleep at night, I'm having nightmares, my anxiety, panic attacks, or low mood and feeling suicidal, and then you assess and you say, well, do you drink? Yes, I drink. How much? You realize they have an alcohol disorder. What used to happen these days is much better. People used to be told, we can only treat your psychiatric condition when you stop drinking. How is one going to stop drinking if they are drinking to try and help their depression? So you see, it's a chicken and egg situation. So these days, evidence tells us as practitioners of substance use, please address both, okay? You can start to treat one, which will actually make the other one much better. And when they start to feel better, you have now the chance even to treat someone for the alcohol use, even if they do not want to stop drinking. And the advice is if you stop or you reduce your drinking, your mood will almost certainly improve. And if you receive treatment for anxiety or depression, you are also less likely to drink, because in most cases, people drink as a desperate attempt to help themselves. There is more. How do you cope with anxiety or low mood? Journaling, writing your thoughts and feelings down really helps get them out of your head. Comparing yourself, yes, loving yourself, self-care. Do something that you really do or enjoy, especially if you've been in this path of drinking and kind of ignoring your health. Something to remember you and to pamper you is very important. An affirmation that you can repeat to yourself. I say this is where every single person who leaves a treatment center should find an affirmation that speaks to them. If you visited Catholic Center, you see so many of them on our walls. Why? Because people need to be able to remember in their mind an affirmation that speaks to me. One that I see when I'm sitting right in my office is one that says, when they tell the story of me, I want them to say, she kept going. You see? So I put that strategic because I may not be struggling with alcohol, but we struggle with so many things on a daily basis. Affirmations really help. When you can see it, put it in your bedroom, put it in your bathroom, put it in your living room, wherever you see it, so that it can remind you that you matter. Or visualizing even drinking-free days, visualizing the future, when alcohol is no longer a problem, where you can hang out and have Christmas with your children, with the rest of your family, where you can travel to places you wanted to travel, that visualization and actually creating images and putting it there. Even when you're struggling, or even I want to be able to leave to see my daughter get married, graduate, my son graduate from university, have a photo of another young man graduating and visualize that being your son or your daughter. Those are encouragement that really motivate someone. And if you have a setback, don't beat yourself up. Be aware of what triggered the setback so that you can avoid being triggered again. And just take in one step at a time. Don't plan too far ahead or focus on worries that are not related to your recovery. Many of us have so many things coming to us. And I say on a day-to-day basis, majority of us are on survival mode, where the decisions that we make are based on what we call forget, the fear, obligation, or guilt. This is not the time to fog. This is the time to take one day at a time. And the only thing that I can do today is maybe do my laundry. Do that. The only thing that I can do today is maybe do some shopping for my groceries. Do that. Okay? Step at a time. What about attending treatment? This is where a lot of people who struggle with alcohol use disorder, they have a resistance and they have a hard time in the families. Because they do not even believe, forget about even to know, they don't believe that there's anything that can help them. They feel so long gone, they feel so helpless, like there's nothing that can help. So one of the things they ask is, do I really need to go to treatment? Do I need to go to rehab? Shouldn't I be able to stop using on my own? Yes, they ask that. It's a legitimate question. Except successful recovery from an alcohol use disorder, not at risk, will require treatment. Like other illnesses, diabetes, depression, alcohol use disorder is caused by biological, psychological, and social combination of factors. Just like these other illnesses, it is very hard for patients or clients or anyone to manage on their own. So treatment is required when one has a diagnosis of alcohol use disorder. However, effective treatment is available. Even when they don't believe you, their support person, you should know that treatment is available and it works. Chances of recovery are greatly improved if one has long periods of sobriety in the past, they have a good social support, such as family and friends, and they only use one substance or misuse one substance. If the more substances there is, the stronger the urges and the difficult it is for one to try and stop. But the biggest predictor of success is support. Whether it is from family, whether it is from friends, that's the biggest predictor. For me, after doing this for 18 years now, I can certainly tell how one is going to go based on how supportive the family is. Even when the client is so motivated, or even when the client is so avoidant, like they say, I don't have to go to treatment, I don't need it, leave me alone, I know what I'm doing. As long as there is good family support, the fact that one did not want to go is not a predictor or that they won't do well. The common denominator is support. When the family holds them so tight and close to them, that person is going to do well. How do you deal with alcohol withdrawal is important to know. As long as one has physiological dependence, which is tolerance and withdrawal, there are symptoms they experience when they stop that they feel uncomfortable. And this is what it is. It's actually a serious and sometimes life-threatening situation where people experience symptoms when they stop using alcohol after a period of heavy drinking. So alcohol withdrawal doesn't happen when you have not had alcohol for 6 months. Even if you are to say, I've been vomiting, I've been diarrheaing, I've been, hallucinating, maybe I'm in alcohol withdrawal. No. The first question when we admit someone to treatment, we ask is, when was your last drink? And the next one is, when have you stopped in the past? And when you stopped, what happened? Because then we know whether one is at risk or not. Signs of withdrawal, they can begin 6 to 12 hours after the last drink. So let's say they drink all the weekend, they come to work on Monday. Obviously, they're not going to drink Tuesday, they may not be able to work because of withdrawal symptoms. Usually, this can be solved in 2 to 3 days, but that is when it's treated. It can last up to 7 or even more, and it is terrible to experience. The most reliable signs that tell you it is withdrawal is sweating. A lot of sweat. People sweat, they get wet in your clothes. You are just drenched in sweat. And we also see heart tremors. The shapes we see. And I say for withdrawal, it is not, when someone is having their hands rested on a table, you will not see the shapes. So what I say is, when you're passing them a cup of water or juice, observe how they reach. In most cases, they are okay to reach, but then they go like this, okay? That is often the case for alcohol withdrawal. There is headache, there is increased heart rate or blood pressure, a lot of diarrhea in most cases, sometimes hallucinations. When you start to see hallucinations, is very, very, very worrying, okay? There are also symptoms such as anxiety, nausea that can happen, but in extreme cases, some people get seizures, and this is the stage where people now can die because of alcohol withdrawal. If you were to get a seizure when no one is available, sometimes you fall and you hit your head, and that could be it. Or sometimes you get what we call delirium tremens, or DTs, but what I would like to call it in layman terms is confusion. I am not sure whether we have any treatment providers here. If there is, please be on the lookout. I will do a version for people who actually treat people for alcohol use disorder, because there's much more that you need to know. This presentation is for anyone who could be struggling, or anyone who could be in a space where they're supporting or they will have to support someone who is struggling with alcohol use disorder. So it's very bare minimum information just to help you get the words, get the tools and the skills to be able to support someone. So withdrawal treatment is what you hear. When people go to treatment, they say they are going to need detox. Yes, detox, it's not just get rid of the alcohol in the body. That is one. But it's to treat all those symptoms. You see, to prevent the sweating, the heart tremor, the headache, all of those things, including increased heart rate and blood pressure. Why? Because this can, and even to prevent seizure, number one also. So that is why you hear when someone comes to treatment, we do an assessment and say this person is going to require detox, and oftentimes detox is charged as an extra cost because of the severity of the withdrawal that we anticipate based on the assessments we do with the evidence-based tools that we have. So withdrawal is treated with medications, yes, And also hydration. A lot of the time someone is on IV and they're getting replacement of vitamins, okay? So you see many things being infused, Pablinex, VH9, and they are also being treated with benzodiazepines, or what we call as sedatives or sleep. Other people call them sleeping aids. These are things like Valium. Valium actually is the gold standard to treat alcohol withdrawal. Treatment time depends on the severity of symptoms. So for us, we have tools to assess. So we don't just say, you know what, you are here, you came because of alcohol, we are going to detox you 10 milligrams of Valium. This, no, there is a tool that we score, we assess and do a scoring that guides us. If they score this one, we give them this much medication. If they score less today, we give less medication. So all of those things are evidence-based to guide. There is also fear of going into withdrawal, which can be a huge barrier for recovery. You can be there saying, you mom, you die, my son, you're going to die with this alcohol, you are going to ruin your life. But the fear of them experiencing withdrawals could be the barrier that is not allowing them to connect with you on that conversation. So it is important to ask, do you experience withdrawal symptoms? Sometimes people, ukiuliza wakikuwa wanaitaka victima, it is very, 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 very uncomfortable. And people know it is a danger, so they're not going to put themselves in harm's way. Untreated withdrawal can be fatal. Yes, it did kill my own brother. I know that. And that is why I want this information out. It can be fatal because in most cases, people do not know that stopping is bad. Because everyone keeps telling me stop. Stopping is a good thing, but you have to stop under the supervision of a trained, experienced person who is able to monitor that withdrawal for you. Otherwise, you will die, even if you are in a hospital that they are not able to treat alcohol withdrawal. My brother died in a hospital ward, in a general hospital, government hospital ward, and it was alcohol withdrawal. Yes, it can kill people. If one experiences symptoms, it is safe to not stop and to get professional help. And people who are heavy drinkers, who are admitted in the hospital for other reasons, you know, maybe it is things like diabetes, high blood pressure, sometimes even cancer. These people, they go to the hospital, you know, they drink routinely, but then they have this sudden pain or they have this issue that makes them go to the hospital and now they are admitted. Guess what? In the hospital, they're not given alcohol. They won't serve it. They won't buy it for them. But if they don't say that I am a regular drinker, what happens? They start to suffer withdrawal symptoms in the hospital. And that can actually cause a lot of complications or even death. So it is important, you know who is in your spaces, you know yourself. If you are to end up in a hospital, please let those people in the hospital know, I am a regular drinker, I suffer withdrawal symptoms, I may require more attention, including those people who become arrested. You know, like the rights they put on the road, the block for, what do you call it? Alcohol blow. Yes, that alcohol blow. If you are to be arrested for alcohol blow and you know you are a daily drinker who experiences withdrawal symptoms, please, even the police know alcohol withdrawal is dangerous. So even if you're in a cell, tell them you need medication or you need to see a doctor because you are going to suffer withdrawal. Okay? So, and it's okay to exaggerate because anything is better than nothing. It is okay to exaggerate the symptoms. In most cases, even the police will get you treatment and still charge you for the infraction that they arrested you for. Okay? So our treatment approach, and we are heading towards the end, we have an evidence-based approach that we use to treat alcohol. It's called the ABC model. And ABC stands for antecedents, and these are events that activate our behaviors. Either they prompted, they provide instructions for how to do the behavior, or even signal our brain towards to experience that behavior. B is for behavior, any action on the part of the person, and see the consequences of that behavior. Consequences can be the events that follow up the behavior, whether they are positive or negative. And if they are positive, chances are they will increase that behavior. If they are negative, chances are people don't want to repeat the behavior again. So the ABC model is a guide because when one comes to treatment, oftentimes the family will bring someone to treatment on the C end, not on the A. They will see This person has not been going to work, they have not been responsible in their own family, they have a lot of injuries, or blah, blah, blah. All of those negative consequences. The point that they say, it does not matter whether he or she wants to go, we are forcing them, which is okay. But you see, it is because of the negative consequences that they are seeing. So that is usually the gateway to treatment. People will not be able to withstand the consequences, and so they want just the behavior to end, so they don't continue to experience those consequences. So when someone comes, what the family is telling us, it is this one has been stealing, they've had so many hospitalizations, they are this, they are there, yes. Now, as practitioners, we use this model to help us understand if there is a consequence, what is the behavior and how is the behavior conducted in the manner in which it gives that consequence. Because on the B, we can do two things. We can manipulate the behavior or try to motivate the person to change the behavior or adapt it in one way or another that is going to either give them less negative consequences or more positive consequences. Do you see? So even on the behavior level, we can still have influence on outcomes. But because we are a trauma-informed organization, what we see is, in most cases, there are things that are sitting below, like an iceberg. You know, you see the tip of the iceberg, all these other big, huge stuff that is sitting below the ground is the A's. These are things like their belief systems, their cultural whatever, their early traumas in their families, experiences of loss and grief, so many things that are sitting there that no one knows, including the person who is drinking or using drugs. So for us, that is where we go with the assessment to determine, is there any A's that are triggering this behavior before we even think of manipulating the behavior. Because if the cause is at A, addressing just the B, which is drinking, is not going to solve any problem. I say, we can say, well, see, people go to rehab most often for 3 months. But if they come to Catholic here, guess what? We are not going to give them alcohol. We are not going to allow them to go and buy alcohol. We don't serve it here. So obviously one is going to stay sober. And for 3 months, because they are sleeping well, they are eating well, it's a clean space, they are engaging with people well, they're even going to look like they added weight and they look good. So we say, you know what? Yes, I have done it. But if we have not addressed the triggers, if we did not dig up there, you're going to pick up the behavior just outside the gate where you left it. So in most cases, we can even predict relapse. And I am only speaking for the work that I do and with the team here at Catholic, that when a recommendation even on discharge is, this person needs to follow up every week, or we are going to come and see them at home, because we do that at Catholic. Please know, we just don't want to waste your time. We have evidence-based tools to be able to assess the stability of the person, to be able to coach that transition. So how do you support someone in recovery? One, remember we said in most cases, people are struggling with fog. This fog starts for fear, obligation, or guilt, that keeps us doing things that we don't really own or want, but just because it gives us that validation, approval, and praise. So you need to clear your own fog if you're going to support someone, because they actually can smell fakeness. Yes, if you're not infected, you are affected. And I say, if this person struggling is your child or your sibling or even your parent, there is a chance that the same antecedents and triggers that cause them to drink, chances are you have them. Maybe you just have better support at work, or maybe whatever it is, or maybe a temperament that is supporting you, or maybe it's a matter of time. So you need to also clear and dig up your own fog, clear it. Be patient. Rebuilding trust takes time. A lot of the time with alcohol use disorder, people lose trust. People must feel seen, heard, and understood in their own language. Yes, not your own, in their own language. When even if one drinks and goes to sleep in the mtaro, they need to feel, not what you're telling them that you love them. They need to feel it. Okay? And remember, asleep is not a relapse. Appreciate incremental change, because many of us are just looking at them. They will look at a bottle of alcohol and not take it. But remember, most likely, look at what they used to engage in, the behavior and the patterns, and see whether there is one thing that they have tried that is different. Please, please, please commend them and praise them for that one thing, because that is going to lead to the next, because what a lot of people don't have is the capacity to feel that I can, okay? So we need to praise them and appreciate them for little incremental changes that we are seeing. And remember that APC model, yes, even if they continue with the behavior, but you are seeing less negative consequences, that is still a positive. A lot of us are just focusing on the end goal, forgetting that the process is equally important. Work with them to support their passion and strengths. People will engage in things that give them meaning and a sense of purpose. So whatever it is that they want, I know a lot of people, families have plans. We want him to stop so that he can go abroad, stop so he can marry, stop so he can go back to school. But really they ask the person, what is it that you would want to do, Evans? Okay. In patient treatment is only 30% success. And this is research. This is not just my blabbing numbers. 70% of success or recovery in any alcohol or drug use is built after they have left the treatment center. Yes. And that is through the support that the team that treated them is going to support them, the person and even the family, and how well the person follows up with the recommendations that are given, and how safe they feel in their home environment or their work environment. Combination of those three. That is the rest of the 70%. For those who struggle with cravings, there is also anti-craving medication. It is now here in Kenya, we prescribe it, that for people, especially who have functional lives, they work, they have a family, they have struggled with binge drinking here and there, ruining most of their finances because of it. There's anti-craving medications that does not force you to stop drinking, but it becomes an aid for you to have more control. What is the value that we offer to our clients and their families here? One, we are trauma-informed center, so we address the cause, the A's, not just the symptoms, not just the consequences. We are also a one-stop shop. When one comes to treatment here, if they have diabetes, high blood pressure, even HIV, we do not tell them, go get that treated and then come. We take over because we have partnered with our local hospitals. We are able to provide all of that treatment here. The cost, we have NHIF, which is an insurance, as you all know. We also are covered by AAR and CIC insurance, and people who have those coverages, in most cases, either treatment is fully covered or discounted through insurance. We also have a separate residence for male and female clients. I know that is a concern, especially for people who have experienced one way of trauma, interpersonal trauma or violence. That we do have those residences that allow people to sleep in safe spaces. We provide family therapy and coaching to families of clients that we treat here, unless the family does not. And we have unfortunately experienced families that, you know, they were exhausted the minute one came here, they turned off the phone. It happens, no judgment. I have lived alcoholism in my family. I have lived with seeing my parents struggle to the point that my siblings died. So I have a lot of empathy to know that sometimes one has nothing left to offer because of the path of desperation they've been put through and pain. We take our clients out for exercise. Yes, we do. Well, the word out there that in rehab, you're locked in for 3 months, we do not do that. This is not a prison. We have a team that is safe, that is trained, that is skilled, and we are able to take our clients out at least once a day for that air and for the change of scenery. We also happen to be in Thika, where the scenery is very, very nice. We do provide spiritual care and financial literacy. We have professionals who do that so that our clients do not only continue to heal, but they heal on all domains of well-being. Transition planning and handholding, this is where we support clients. Let's say one has been off school for a long time, they don't know where to start. Yes, we are able to go into those colleges. We've gotten people back in school. We are able to go and meet with their HR departments, negotiate a return to work plan, so that, because we know when you've been of this structure for so long, it is so overwhelming and sometimes could be the cause of the relapses that people experience. We also offer unlimited free therapy. I talked about that. Once a client is treated at CAFRIC, they will always be a CAFRIC client. We provide free therapy unless they were to come to be readmitted for stabilization or to see a psychiatrist. If it's therapy, free of charge, whether it's online, in person, as many times as they wish. We also offer free outreach. This is when we have discharged a client home, we actually will plan before they go home, when we are going to visit them, where they are going at home. Reason being, as I said, most people leave those problems outside the gate, and they leave because they've been here for 3 months. Those are already forgotten. While they go and find they're still there, we also want to be there to help them support and encourage. So for the first month after we discharge someone, the outreach that we offer is free. It is to ensure that the client is settling down. And we also are able to prescribe, assess, and recommend anti-craving medications to help people who continue to struggle and cravings become such a barrier for recovery for them. These are the other programs that we offer here. A lot of therapy and counseling. We have education, training, the RIFE program, which is the program we do online. If you've never visited CAFRIC, those are some images of what CAFRIC looks like on the inside. And this is a program that, especially for people who may not meet the criteria for inpatient treatment, and because in most families, so-and-so has struggled in their childhood or they've gone through such a negative experience. This program is called Thrive, and it's a program that takes one from what happened early in the years or what should happen, and so that people can identify maybe some things that lie in the subconscious that they are not aware of. This program is running on its third time now, and we are starting actually tomorrow night. I will be sitting on the same seat teaching week 1, which is the introduction to well-being, happening tomorrow night. It is 15,000. Should you know someone or you have someone that you're supporting and you're like, if I am not infected, I am affected. This is also a program that can be very helpful. It achieves the same thing that people achieve in therapy, but only in the comfort of your home, after work, 7 to 9, every Thursday. And if you miss a class, we also record them so that you don't entirely miss. You can listen to it after. And the last program that we have is one for young adults and teens. We see what is happening in the media, a lot of them just being influenced, peer pressure. Sometimes it's, the hype of social media and, easy life that is impacting a lot of young adults. We have a program that we are meeting with young adults who are transitioning from high school to college or university, and this will happen early March. Keep on our social media channels. You'll get information about this once we finalize the details, but it will be a 2-day bootcamp. Will be on Thursday and a Friday and a Saturday. That is what we are planning for. Look out for that for details. So now it is way above time, but I see people hang on here. And I know you did not just hang on because you did not have anything. And the reason I also did not pay attention to time, because this information, while it may not apply to many, there is someone whose life it can change. So it is that time that Lulu and Brenda and Evans, I ask you check whether there are questions. And if people want to ask questions and mute, you can also do that. But that brings us to the end of today's webinar.
Okay. Thank you so much, Irene, for this informative session. So we have, yes.
Sorry, you are breaking.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you are breaking.
And now, can you be able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So the first question is question drinking limits and the enzyme drinks at once in a week at one sitting, like when not going to work, instead of every day 3 drinks. Does that affect the working of that enzyme that helps too?
Yes. That's a good question. Yeah. So the drinking limit, that's why they specify the starter drinks per week and per sitting. So for men, maximum is 3 per sitting. Why? Because when you go above that, you are overwhelming your system. That production of glucagon that is supposed to help clear it for you and save your liver all that work and toxicity, it cannot keep up with the amount of alcohol. So that is why just about 3, then you are on a safe zone. So while you can drink 15 in a week, you cannot drink all of them at once. That is going to be alcohol poisoning, actually, and it can send you to the hospital very, very fast. So very good question. Thank you, whoever asked that. It is important that we clarify. So the guidelines state what we can consume in a day, and now the total or average of what we can consume in a week to stay on that safe zone. So I hope I have answered that. All right. Any other question,
Okay.
Lulu?
Yes, a lot. So is there, or which nutrients does alcohol and such other drinks add to the body, or what's the benefit to it brings?
I can't hear you very well. Let me see if I can see. Great.
So is there, or what nutrient does alcohol and it bring?
0. Alcohol is just empty calories. There is no benefit for alcohol in the body. For people who may have anxiety, they may say it relieves. Yes, it does. It also relieves emotional pain, but very temporarily, because in the long run, it's going to make it worse. So alcohol has 0 benefit to the body, 0 nutrient. It is just pure empty calories that are coming to kill yourselves. That is as blank as I have to lay it. 0 help. So abstinence is a gold standard, particularly if one is on the childbearing age, with mixed alcohol and pregnancy, they do not mix. That must be avoided at all costs. Alcohol is not safe for anyone, whether you are 60, 100, or 12. Not safe for anyone, not safe for any man or woman. It is such an acceptable drug in our society and all over the world, and it is there, but that does not mean it is safe for anyone. 0 benefit, except the temporary relief of emotional pain or anxiety. Okay?
Okay.
So I hope, yes.
Okay, another question is, how comes professional talk to us being okay at certain ratios or give techniques? Is it that it's an accepted evil? So safe drinking tips is like suggesting how to start or keep on stealing habits without injuries too much.
Yes, that person who asked that question answered part of it, because while we all know with adults, you cannot force people. People will have to make choices. Our name, CAFRIC, stands for Creating Awareness for Responsible and Informed Choices. And that was why CAFRIC was formed. That's why we do what we do. That's why we spend time, our free time, doing these webinars that disseminate correct evidence-based information and credible information, because you cannot force anyone to change. What you can is provide them with credible information to make an informed choice, and when they still want to make the choice they want, please give them the information that can reduce harm to themselves. That is what ethics is, okay? That is ethical care. So while we cannot force people, the police can, we are providers. So if we cannot entirely prevent dangerous behavior, the other thing we do is how can we minimize the harm to that person? And that is what this webinar and this information was geared towards. It's not by any way, shape, or form an encouragement to anyone to drink or that alcohol is better if you do this. No, that is the purpose. Okay, I hope I have answered that.
Okay, yes, you have. So another question is, this they want to go for that rehab is hard to understand, yet it is said that they also yet it said they also mental issues involved normally. So how is decision left to that person? Okay, didn't understand this question. I don't know if you understood this question.
I think what is happening is maybe when the one struggling with substance use challenge, perhaps they either do not want to go to rehab or they want to, but then they don't not only struggle with substance use, perhaps they also have another concurrent mental health condition. So, and I guess the question is, do you leave the decision to decide on this person? I would say you leave the decision to them, chances are you're going to lose them. The way I lost my brother. Yes, because especially when there is a concurrent condition, one is not capable of making decisions. So the reason we are disseminating this information is so that people can have entry points to start to determine we need to do something. We can't just leave this as a choice anymore. Okay?
Okay.
Also, now
So
I can see the chat.
Oh,
The
you
tips
can
have
see.
been educating. Does anyone here know a good alcoholics use story? Maybe someone who's what? Recovered? Mary, do you mean someone who's recovered from alcohol use disorder? If that is the case, yes, we do. You can cite charters after. Oh,
Okay, so another one is a relative has addiction problems. We all think they need rehab. However, they say they are okay and they will not go to rehab. What do you do in such a situation?
I did not hear. A relative has, oh, I'm seeing, a relative has addiction problems. We all think they need rehab. However, they say they're okay and will not go to rehab. What do you do in such a situation? One, I always say approach matters. It is not, family always come from a place of concern, of love, but in most cases, we don't know how to communicate that. So our emotions take over because we are related and there's blood flowing that is the same, that our emotions take over and we become more emotional than objective when we are communicating what our concern is and how we need to support. One of the ways, and the strongest one, I say it's not to tie one up and bring them to treatment. Because remember, 70% of success is dependent on connection with the family. So I say, if you have someone struggling like that, can you reach out to us? We'll coach you. Yes, we can coach you on how to engage them so that, and coaching is free of charge, so that you actually are making them feel seen, heard, and understood. So please reach out, and I hope you picked our contacts. Okay. I see there is tips have been, oh, that's the same one. Let me try to scroll. Thank you for sharing. The session have been informative, interactive. Okay, you are very welcome. Very good presentation. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Nicole. You're welcome. Can anti-craving medication become addictive to some people? No, no. Anti-craving medication for alcohol is naltrexone, which has no evidence for forming dependency whatsoever. So for alcohol, I know there are other people who use different things like gabapentin, pregabalin, in terms of these are not FDA approved for treating alcohol use disorder cravings. But things like the GABAs, the pregabalin and gabapentin, they have been used off-label, and there is anecdotal stories of them being used with success to help with cravings. But those can actually cause their habit forming. So the ones that are approved by FDA are the ones that we use in treatment because they are not habit forming. So in short, the proper anti-craving medications for alcohol do not cause dependency, like cigarette patches. Remember, anti-craving medications are not like nicotine or replacement. Nicotine replacement, like patches, what it does, it is giving someone the same nicotine they would get on the cigarette, minus all the other junk that is in the cigarette. So in one cigarette, nicotine, which is the active psychoactive substance that gives one the high, is one little part of that cigarette. All the others include tar and all these carcinogens that are in the cigarette. Those are the ones that we are reducing harm by giving someone a patch. So if the addiction is to nicotine, how can we give you nicotine without causing all this damage to your lungs with all this other junk? So that is why. So anti-craving medications do not follow that mechanism of action. They are not replacing alcohol in the clinic. What they do is that they almost create a shield on the receptor where the alcohol molecule hits and activates dopamine that you can drink and nothing will happen to you. You won't get sick even after taking this medication. What you will see is when you continue to take, if you are becoming so excited and keep asking another one and another one, you don't have that compulsive desire to keep going. Why? Because your receptor is not constantly dripping dopamine because it is covered by that medication. So that is how it works. If one is interested, maybe you can inquire. We can do a call that we can provide even resources to understand how it works. So nicotine replacement, it does replace nicotine minus the other bad stuff. Anti-craving medications, they have a mechanism of action on the brain that protects that compulsion to want to go on and on and on and on. Okay? I hope that is clear. Can we get the recording? The recording will be shared on YouTube, yes. And even the slides are part of that recording, so you see them. Someone using alcohol not be covered. I don't know what that question means. Okay. Was wondering if there's a good story in way of someone using alcohol. Who talked today, thanks. Yes, we do have them here. But yes, there are some success stories, not just at Capri, but in many treatment centers of success from alcohol use. And especially if someone is struggling or supporting someone and they don't know, that is something that you could reach out to us privately, because we also protect, again, we abide by data protection laws, that we are not just going to expose people, even if they've done very, very well. You have to sign consent. And if you wanted to speak with them with their consent, you could speak with them on the phone, and we can arrange for that if you needed any motivation to do that. So we can arrange for that. Again, reach out. And I think that's the end of questions. Lulu? Thank you, everyone. I'm glad it was helpful. Look out for more. We are going to be talking about things. Maybe the next one we'll be talking about will be gambling, which has become a menace in our society. So watch out for other, and let people know. And if you can share even the recording of this on YouTube, feel free. Isn't it, Lulu? It's free to share.
Yes, yes, it is.
Yes.
They'll receive the
Yes.
recording after this meeting immediately,
Yeah.
and everything will be uploaded. So thank you so much for everyone who joined in today. You're free to leave. We'll just be here in case you have any more questions about our services or how you can be able to reach out to us. So you're just free to leave. In case you have a question, you can also unmute so that we can answer any concerns that you have.
Yeah, and for providers, people who are in the same work treating substance use, yes, anyone interested, even capacity building, Thrive can be a very good program, even for practitioners who are working with, especially people who have PTSD or CPTSD and are using alcohol drugs. Yes, you learn a lot about complex trauma and how it interacts with the behaviors that we see in that program. So thank you, everyone, and have a good night. Maybe we can call it a night. Lulu.